Godzilla is the king of monsters, so a king needs to have a formidable opponent, someone who challenges them. That's where King Ghidorah comes into the picture. With his 3 heads and amazing powers, he is the storm of all storms, causing mass destruction wherever he goes. His powers are immense, and as a kaiju, he's pretty cool. In this video, we will take a good look at his powers and see if he can really be the storm of all storms in the Godzilla universe. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you, let's begin. King Ghidorah and his formidable appearance. When King Ghidorah was originally introduced, he was an alien species out of this world who had come to destroy Earth, like every other villain. But as the series progressed, different origins of King Ghidorah have been discussed and expanded upon by the creators. So let's look at all the different origin stories of King Ghidorah. When we explore the origin story presented by the Showa series, we learn about King Ghidorah being an extraterrestrial alien dragon who decided to attack Venus. Once he had destroyed the whole civilization of the planet, he turned towards Earth. However, he couldn't get a bite out of Earth because the monsters of the Earth, like Godzilla and Mothra, banded together and saved it from King Ghidorah. But then he got used as a pawn by the Xiliens, a technologically advanced civilization that wanted to use King Ghidorah to do their bidding and conquer other civilizations. But that's not the only time King Ghidorah had been used as a pawn. When we look at Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah series, we see that this time around, King Ghidorah is the pawn of the Futurians. The Futurians have traveled from the future to ruin Japan's past so that it doesn't become powerful in the future. They created King Ghidorah by accident. They put 3 genetically engineered Dorats in the same enclosure at Lagos Island. 10 years later, in 1954, a bomb went off. This was a hydrogen bomb that was detonated nearby for testing. The effect of this hydrogen bomb caused 3 Dorats to mutate and join together for King Ghidorah. In the movie Rebirth of Mothra 3, we once again encounter King Ghidorah. However, this time he arrives on Earth during the Cretaceous era and personally takes it upon himself to eliminate a significant number of dinosaurs. However, as dinosaurs do not particularly satisfy his appetite, he returns to the present with the intent of preying on children and wreaking havoc on civilization. In the Godzilla animated series, Ghidorah is depicted as a supreme being without a physical form. It's said that he has evolved to such an extent that he no longer requires a physical body, and his immense energy led to the Exifs to consider him a deity. Ghidorah establishes contact with them through this energy-based form, which enables him to traverse dimensions. The Exifs willingly offer their planet to Ghidorah and embark on a journey through space for hundreds of years, searching for new planets to bestow upon Ghidorah. In the Monsterverse, King Ghidorah is often referred to as the living extinction event. In this particular storyline, Ghidorah shares a similar background to his Showa series counterpart, being depicted as an extraterrestrial creature not belonging to Earth's natural order. It's believed that depictions of multi-headed monsters in various religions can be traced back to Ghidorah. However, there is one movie where King Ghidorah is portrayed as a hero. In this film titled Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah, Giant Monsters All-Out Attack, Ghidorah is revered as the god of the sky, known as Yama no Orochi, the mythical 8-headed dragon. He was previously defeated by soldiers, and his remains were buried under Mount Fuji. Over the centuries, he was worshipped, and this worship triggered his rebirth. This time, though, he didn't have enough time to grow all 8 heads, emerging as the 3-headed monster we recognize. While all of these backstories have changed over the years, do you know what has remained constant? His character design. In every character design over the different versions of Ghidorah we've seen, Ghidorah is shown to be bigger in size than Godzilla. He has bat-like wings that seemingly span the whole length of his body. The thin membrane is stretched over 4 fingers like projections from Ghidorah and is supported by 3 phalanges like projections that come to his torso. The tips of these phalanges look very similar to claws, which is why we often see Ghidorah using his wings as forearms to support his weight as he crawls around. He has inky black blood with an oil-like texture, which stands in stark contrast to his typical golden yellow body. Moving on to Ghidorah's heads, while they generally appear similar, there are some minor differences. The middle head has 2 rows of spines on its neck, along with larger horns. The right head has chipped horns, while the left head has straighter ones. The left head also seems to have a more rectangular facial structure. All three heads have crocodilian-like bone structures, forked tongues, and flaring nostrils. Ghidorah's horns can flare depending on his emotional state. He is known for his fiery red eyes, which appear yellow from a distance, and his neck emits a golden light when he's preparing for an attack. Ghidorah possesses twin tails with spiked bludgeons at the tip, which he uses to shake and rattle as an intimidation tactic, similar to rattlesnakes. With such an iconic character design, King Ghidorah has remained memorable over the years, and the three-headed dragon meme is none other than the King Ghidorah himself, making him truly unforgettable. The three heads of Ghidorah. King Ghidorah has three heads, and while they often work in unison to create chaos, they have their differences. While they are subtle, they contribute significantly to King Ghidorah's overall personality. Let's dive into these unique traits. The central head is known as Ichi, which is the most dominant and intelligent among the trio. We see this head act in a far more dominant and sadistic way than the other two heads. We see it smirk right before obliterating the G-Team, which shows off its malevolent nature. However, that's not all. If you notice carefully, you will see that Ichi is the first to be aware of things. It has crazy situational awareness, and it also seemed to know when Godzilla was approaching Antarctica. Ichi is the head that cares the most about Ghidorah's priorities, and this is why he is the one in command. He is creative during battle, and he is the most daring head of the King Ghidorah. As he was the only remaining head of Ghidorah, we see him actually fear for Ghidorah's life, which makes the personality of this head very distinct. The head on the right is Ni. Ni is the Japanese word for two, so we can assume that this head is the second in command from the name itself. It's the most irritable and aggressive of the three heads. It's bloodthirsty and doesn't hide. This head is much more active during battles, as we see it immediately dismantle the speakers that were transmitting Orca's signal. Ni is often seen chirping and suggesting things to Ichi, which Ichi considers to be much more lenient towards Ni, which is not something we see Ichi do towards the third head. Ni was also seen going out of its way to clear the webbing from Ichi's face after Mothra's attack, so we can see that there is a camaraderie between the two. Lastly, we have San, the derpy left head as portrayed in the meme. While he may not be as derpy during the fights, it's clear why Michael J. Larson painted him that way. San is the more curious of the bunch. He's not that aggressive and is usually easily distracted. San is the brother with undiagnosed ADHD. We repeatedly see San being berated by Ichi because of the unfocused nature. San has been more curious about humans than Ichi or Ni since they were reawakened. We see San have a curious disposition towards the crowd, and San's favorability towards foods becomes evident when he's seen much more focused on eating the ashes of the G-Team than fighting. However, San is not weak in any sort of the word. San is savage too. It's much more eager to bite Godzilla in the neck, while the other two heads are focused on draining energy from Godzilla. It can be clumsy during fights and bang itself against a wall. However, his gravitational beam move still works. San's gravitational beam is broader and unfocused, so the amount of damage dealt by him covers quite a huge area. Another thing about San that strikes us all is that San is the most expressive head of Ghidorah. We see its curiosity, its fear, its anger, and, of course, its sadistic nature much more clearly than the other heads. However, when San's skull was used to make the Mega Godzilla ended up getting the bloodthirsty nature of San and not the derpy personality that he has. So deep down, San is just as bloodthirsty as Ichi and Ni. The leader is Ichi, who motivates all three heads to work together for the sake of Ghidorah himself. Under such tough leadership, the savagery and destruction created by Ghidorah knows no bounds. Is King Ghidorah larger than Godzilla? The world of kaijus is fascinating, and with Godzilla being the king of monsters, its arch-nemesis had to be someone special. King Ghidorah is exactly that. Standing at a height of 158.8 meters, King Ghidorah towers over Godzilla. but that height is the recent reimagination of King Ghidorah. If we look at all the Showa series, King Ghidorah had a height of 100 meters, which was later increased to 115 meters in the Heisei series. Even at these heights, King Ghidorah was twice the size of Godzilla, making him the tallest kaiju in the series. But why settle when you can achieve greatness? And that is why when you see King Ghidorah with a height of 158.8 meters and every centimeter packed with pure evil, we truly accept him as the arch-nemesis of the King of Monsters. Can he regenerate his head? There have been several versions of Ghidorah, but the MonsterVerse version of Ghidorah shows a cool ability. This is the first version of Ghidorah who is shown to have the ability to regenerate. We see this power in action when Godzilla decapitates Ghidorah. Using the radiation from Rodon's volcano, Ghidorah was able to regenerate his fallen head almost instantaneously, making him quite the formidable opponent to face off against Godzilla. We get a very detailed view of this regeneration. The first part to regenerate is his tongue. As the tongue grows, a membranous sac grows around it. This membranous sac is what becomes the skull. Then the bones, muscle, and skin follow. We see Ichi rip the membrane prematurely when it's San who is getting regenerated. But Ghidorah can regenerate other parts of his body too. In the battle at Boston, we see him use the energy from Boston's energy grid to regenerate and fix the holes in his wings. What type of organs does Ghidorah have? Now, when you see the biggest kaiju, you would assume he has an interesting physiology, right? And you would be right, because King Ghidorah has the strangest physiology. He lacks most of the major organs. We see him take a blow after blow, hit after hit, and he still stands up again. That's because none of Ghidorah's 3 heads have a brain. In his chest cavity, a crystalline structure is present. This crystal sphere acts as both his heart and brain. Because of how vital this organ is, it is very hard to get to it. It's an extremely durable structure, and the skin and scales that protect it are tough to get through. King Ghidorah can project lightning from his wings. Being the biggest kaiju and physiologically extremely difficult to beat is not enough for Ghidorah. In fact, he's got more tricks up his sleeve. One such trick is his ability to manipulate electricity. Ghidorah is golden in color. That's because his scales have a layer of gold on them. This gold acts as a conductor. His molecular biology is bioelectrical in nature. His body is able to harness electricity and use it against his opponents. That's why we see him take up the electricity from lightning and use it for himself. Not only that, he can take up a huge amount of electrical power. We see him absorb the power from the entire Boston power grid. This is a huge amount of electricity, and his bioelectrical molecular structures play an active role in keeping him active even after absorbing so much. On top of that, this ability to harness electricity gives him the much-needed kick he needs during regeneration, as we saw during the Boston battle. Now, when it comes to his wings work as the main receptacle that weaponizes the electricity. Once he takes up enough electricity, Ghidorah is able to project lightning from the tip of his wings. We see him do this after he absorbs power from the Boston power grid. He uses the electricity to strike down several aircraft and, in turn, stuns Godzilla with how bright it can be and, when used, allowing Ghidorah to escape. Does Ghidorah have telepathic ability? Communication between all 3 heads is something that is key for Ghidorah. His neck is extremely long, and communicating mid-battle can be hard. That's why in Hayes' creation, he explained that Ghidorah has evolved to telepathy. This telepathic connection makes it easy for Ichi to bring Ni and San together before launching an attack. When San was decapitated and his skull was used to design Mechagodzilla, the bloodthirsty nature of Mechagodzilla can be explained by the telepathic information that was retained in San's head post-decapitation. We even see the skull vibrate in response to Ghidorah's calls, even though it didn't have any vocal cords. So the telepathic ability is not just based on the mind here. It's more of a cellular level thing. Does Godzilla's atomic breath have any effect on Ghidorah's body? The layer of gold on his scales provides Ghidorah with a durability that no other kaijus have. We often see Ghidorah shrug off open fires that have halted other kaijus in their tracks. such as the Oxygen Destroyer. We often see Ghidorah use his wings as a shield, even when Godzilla uses his atomic breath. We at first saw that he had no effect on Ghidorah except burning up his wings, but later, as the fight progresses, we see Ichi, the middle head, as the only one standing after atomic breath, even though Ichi, too, falls victim to atomic breath. He lasts quite a long time against it, which proves how durable Ghidorah is. King Ghidorah's body can create gravity beams. When Ghidorah's body physiology was researched by the Monarch scientists, they found out the nature of his molecular structure. The gold that acts as a conductor allows Ghidorah to harness electricity from lightning and the power grids around him. While he can use this electricity to strike down aircraft, Ghidorah's signature move is not that. His signature move is gravity beaming. Using the electricity, Ghidorah is able to let out concentrated energy beams from all three of his mouths. These yellow gravity beams are strong enough to disintegrate buildings with ease. We see the gravity beams scorch the scales of Godzilla and even push him off the ice at one point. While there's no permanent damage to Godzilla due to gravity beams, we cannot say the same about Mothra, because those beams were strong enough to incinerate a weakened Mothra with ease. Like Godzilla's scales glow before his atomic breath, Ghidorah's scales around his neck glow before he lets out his gravity beams. The best part of this highly destructive move is that it takes Ghidorah less time to charge up than Godzilla. How fast can Ghidorah go? Ghidorah's wings are made up of muscles and tendons. These tendons are extremely hypertensile in nature. The hypertensility makes Ghidorah able to fly with a ferocity that we wouldn't see in any other kaijus. As far as his speed is concerned, he can fly up to 550 knots. We have had previous incarnations mention that he can reach a flight speed of Mach 3, but with the amount of damage Ghidorah can do at Mach 0.8 speed, it's enough for us to fear the arch-nemesis of Godzilla. He may not be the fastest flyer, but he is the most ferocious, and he can easily fly with Godzilla in his clutches up to the troposphere before dropping the king. Unleashing King Ghidorah's Meteorokinesis, a cosmic power unveiled. Ghidorah is not someone you can take lightly. Because of his ability to manipulate electricity and his flight, he has the ability of Meteorokinesis. His scales have a thin layer of gold. Now, while gold is not the best conductor of electricity, it can conduct just fine. His wingspan is pretty huge if you look at it. The aerodynamics of the wings, with the arum on his scales, makes the water vapor around him heat up in an instant, creating a huge storm wherever he goes. A grade 6 hurricane to be exact. His power of flight is enough to rip through the stratosphere. Now, when Ghidorah takes on the role of an alpha titan, we see him create storms like this all around the world. If these storms had raged for a long time, they would have been the cause of humanity's extinction on its own. The meteor-kinetic ability of Ghidorah simply doesn't stop. Even after he was killed in a specific area of the Pacific Ocean, a storm continued for years. So clearly, his abilities are far more immense than what we initially assumed. Ghidorah's gender. Gendering the kaiju, we see, has been somewhat of a trend. Mothra was assigned female, so we refer to her as a she. In this whole video, we have referred to Ghidorah as a male, but in the new movie Godzilla, the King of the Titans, we learn that Ghidorah is actually without any gender. Based on how each head has a different personality and the alien physiology that Ghidorah has, it's hard to assign a gender to this kaiju. This was partly done to make this kaiju stand out from every other kaiju we have had the opportunity to come across. However, for the sake of the continuity in this video, we will refer to Ghidorah as he, like we've been doing so far. Ghidorah's weakness. While Ghidorah might seem invincible, that's not the case. Throughout the journey, we see Ghidorah have quite a few notable weaknesses. Water acts as a huge weakness for Ghidorah. His body is meant for airborne movement, so when Godzilla, who is more comfortable underwater, drugs Ghidorah underwater with him, we see him struggle quite a bit. Freezing temperatures are also something that can subdue Ghidorah with ease. Ghidorah was dormant for years until human interference set him free. Lastly, a thermonuclear pulse is something that Ghidorah cannot withstand. We see him fall in front of Godzilla's atomic breath, and it's ultimately the cause of his demise. Marvelous verdict. Ghidorah may have been underrated, but now that he has the limelight, it's clear who the best nemesis is for Godzilla. Sorry, King Kong, the only way you can be a formidable nemesis for Godzilla is when you have electricity, a Great Six hurricane, and pure evil filling up every inch of your body. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone!